Welcome back. We learned that there can be many execution contexts. But you might be asking yourself, what about variables that are created inside of these individual execution contexts? That is, variables inside of functions. And we have a place for that. On top of the execution context, this and arguments, we also have a little space over here called variable environment. This is a place that variables can live in these different stack worlds. I mean, they all technically live in our JavaScript engine memory, but they need to know how they relate to one another. Some functions have access to their certain variables, and some don't. Remember what I said before. You can think of each execution context like its own little planet, its own little universe. These worlds don't really communicate with each other or know of each other. Well, kind of for now. So, what type of thing do we have in this variable environment? Let's have a look at a little example. Let's say I create two functions. We have function 2 that has variable is valid. We're not assigning it to anything. We're just declaring this variable. We have function 1. And this function will have, once again, variable is valid. And we'll give that valid equal to true. And then we'll also call the function 2 in here. Finally, we'll also add a variable is valid here. We'll say false in here. And then finally, on line 11, we'll call the 1 function. All right, that looks extremely confusing, but let's go step by step and see what happens when it comes to variable environments. The first thing that happens, well, we have function declarations. So these get hoisted and put at the top, allocating memory space for them. We also have is valid, which is a global variable and is assigned an undefined when it gets hosted. Then we start running or executing our code during the execution phase. The very first step is line 10, where we assign false to is valid. So in the memory space, we change undefined to now false. So that is valid equals to false. The second step is line 11, where we run 1. We invoke the function, and a new execution context is created on top of the stack. If we can think about it like this, we just created a new execution context. The third step is, well, we go into the function, and we have line 6 over here, where we have the variable is valid that will be put into the new execution context. That is, this variable will be put in the local environment or the variable environment. And then we run function 2. So a new execution context is created. And on top of the stack, we add 2. So now we go into the 2 world. And in the 2 world, we have a new variable that's being declared. Initially, it's undefined. But then when we actually see this, well, nothing's being assigned to it. So this remains undefined. So let's think about this in terms of variable environment. In the global environment, that is, remember, at the very bottom of the stack, we have the global execution context. Well, we have variable is valid equals to false. So this is going to have false as its variable. In the 1 execution context, the local environment or variable environment is going to have a variable called is valid that is going to equal to true. It doesn't really care about what's happening in the global execution environment or the global world. It only cares about what's inside it for itself. When we go to 2, well, 2 we already have is valid as well. But this is valid is going to be undefined. So each of these worlds carry information or variables and data that they have access to. And when we finish executing the functions, that is, line 2 gets done in function 2, well, we pop off this off the stack, and that memory space for is valid is gone. And then we pop off 1, and that memory space for is valid is also gone. And then finally, once we're done with here, we can clear everything, and all the memory is gone from our program. Now, this variable environment, a place where we store information. And by the way, when I say store information, some of this information can be on the actual call stack or the execution context. Remember, this is just a call stack. Or it could be a reference to somewhere in the heap, in the memory heap, that perhaps we might have an object. Now, this is something we're going to use in some upcoming videos. But keep in mind, each execution context has its own variable environment. Let's learn more about this in the next video. Bye-bye.